in terms of entertainment, but why not for good? What if we had people who use just their regular coffee tumblers and brought it themselves? Or if the establishment, like a supermarket, only used reusable bags? We're looking to incent this kind of behavior. And the way we do it is by planting a virtual tree in the app. And this is real. It's like the yakal tree that we just planted, where all of your lifestyle habits result in your growing a tree virtually in the app. But then you go beyond that. So why can't we connect them to this? As they practice more sustainable behaviors, we plant the virtual tree, but the virtual tree, when it's fully grown, results in a real tree being planted here. You may be wondering how our imagination spread so far. We actually saw something very similar, but done at huge scale in China with our partners. And we saw live again, firsthand, the ant forest. And this initiative was to solve a problem in China, but think of so many individuals. I believe now there are 500 million individuals who have contributed to 100 million trees. Why can't we bring this to the Philippines? So our goal is to plant 365,000 trees over the next 365 days. So that's bold ambition there, but with your help, we can do this for a better Philippines. Gcash wants to do this again. Start using the app, start changing lifestyle, one step at a time, and we'll have a better environment here in the Philippines, one tree at a time. Download the Gcash app and start today.
Okay, so for Gcash Forest, same question. Ano yung pain or what's the problem that's trying to solve? Sige, comment ulit, comment. There. So yeah, so thank you, Precious. No, so environmental and Raymond, environmental issue. No, so yeah, in a nutshell, there's a lot of environmental problems across the world. Climate change, diba? We all know that. And on the other side, as mentioned sa video rin, a lot of us you want to do good, but it's not easy. So yeah, so it's that again, parang two sides again, diba? So yeah, and the compelling solution is a Gcash forest. So it's really parang gamifying the experience of doing carbon neutral activities. So parang the real thought process there is, for example, if you pay your bills through the app, parang di ka na magsuspend ng pamasahe or ng gas, 'di ba? Parang di ka na magko-consume ng energy to be transported from one place to another. So it's really carbon neutral. So parang paying bills or for example paying for goods online, ganyan, paying for telco load. So parang ganun yung parang may totoong scientific method siya to calculate yung carbon footprint na nasa-save natin. And so it then becomes transformed into like energy. You collect energy within the app, diba? Tapos you can get energy just to make it a bit more fun. You may competition within the app, diba? May leaderboard, and then you can get energy from those people who are not are harvesting it. So at the end of it, if you reach enough energy, then you plant a virtual tree, which in reality is being planted rin by Gcash and WWF. So that's the thought process, no? And it's a very interesting, yung narinig ko rin to nung una, parang ang interesting niya na concept. And yun, parang it's really inspiration from Ant Forest rin. It was one of our partners in Gcash before. And and ayun, in China, a lot of trees were planted already. So yeah, imagine the scale that it can reach no eventually. And again, di ba, sabi ko kanina, always question how the business model works. And I think ito specifically for this, I won't go deep into the overall business model of Gcash, but how this connects to the business model of Gcash as well. Parang as a company, why will Gcash subsidize the cost that is involved in planting a tree, right? Kasi, and that is because it's a replacement of its cost in terms of pushing people to use it. So then it becomes like a rewards program. So parang alam niyo 'di ba, for example si SM may rewards program sila, na at some point binabalik nila yung value dun sa customers. Tapos si Pure Gold may rewards program sila. So parang in essence, it's like an innovative rewards program. Sorry, someone unmute. I unmuted. Ayun. So, and yeah, trans opportunities, again, same, increasing use of mobile payments, and utilizing that as a platform to do good. So yeah. So ito naman, sample, ano siya, let's go quicker here kasi ano rin, mahaba rin yung madami pa tayong pwedeng i-tackle. No? So for Hungrily, you know this, no? So it's a local startup. I wanted to highlight like one startup in Naga. And it's essentially enabling consumers to order food online. And in effect, there's a rider on the other side who has like a livelihood or added income. So very similar with our first example kanina sa Lazada. Kasi it's the same parang e-commerce. It's just a different application now with food, no? So yun, same lack of livelihood, hassle in getting access for food for consumers. And then the solution is essentially like an app allowing users to order from different restaurants and have it delivered. No? And business model is kind of the same then. Sales fee, charge the merchants. So very, very similar to Lazada. No? So yeah. Next naman, I'll be sharing two more features under Gcash, which me personally I've handled. No, so GSave, for example. So GSave is a savings account that really drives financial inclusion by providing access to a digital savings account. No, so what it does is it allows users to earn a lot higher interest rate without the usual fees. No? So unlike the traditional banks, diba, may maintaining balance, ganyan. Tapos mababa lang yung interest niya, parang 0.25%. Here, because it's full digital, it allows users to benefit. No, so it's instead of it being a cost, yung users can actually earn a lot more money or a lot more interest to help them with their savings in general or wealth management. So the problem really there is, parang a lot of Filipinos don't have access to physical bank accounts. But then the opportunity naman is you have your GCash, the platform na with millions of subscribers already during that time. And so the solution is you have your digital savings account within the GCash app, allowing high interest. No, so there, and the reason why it's parang it's able to do that is because we save up cost because it's full digital, diba? So before, if it's full traditional, there's a lot of cost involved in maintaining a branch with its personnel, with the rent, with the utilities, etc. here, for example, in GSave, in say with in partnership with a digital bank, which is CIMB, there's no branch at all. So walang branch at all to be able to do that. So then, ayun nga, as mentioned, yung value comes back to the customer. So connecting this to a bigger societal problem, di ba? Parang it's really about financial literacy. Parang one big part of that is the lack of access of Filipinos to inclusive services like this. Right? So yan. The next sample is, for example, this offering fair credit for all. So this is actually one of my first babies when I was just starting out. So the problem that we were facing is yung massive use, for example, of loan sharks. So parang ang tataas ng interest ng mga na binabayaran ng mga usual Filipinos, 'di ba? Parang ang daming gipit sa utang because kapag emergency, ang hirap lapitan ng mga banks, ganyan. Ang hirap, ang daming documentations. And the problem then becomes, and hindi naman kasi masasolve yung basa-basa, di ba? Parang we can say na okay, kasalanan kasi ng mga Pilipino yan. Parang hindi nila iniisip yung interest that comes with it. But in reality, a lot of times, it's emergency, like life and death situations na may sakit yung kamag-anak o kaya parang may yung tuition kailangan na talagang bayaran, otherwise di makakapagtapos. So parang nasa crucial moments talaga siya. And so we thought that why not use data? So we created, so this is a bit more technical, but the idea here is we created like I'll go back to the previous slide. We created like a trust score which is based on GCash transaction. So if there are people here na math graduate or I don't know, like tech, if you're familiar with machine learning, where you use data that is available in order to create like an algorithm that learns on its own. So if you feed a lot of data on it, it learns on its own and gets better in order to predict if that customer is likely to pay or not. So parang the problem of lending out or creating a fair credit, parang sinolve mo through math, di ba? Kasi probabilities, ganyan. So it worked, honestly. So it was quite fun to do this project. It really worked na nagkaroon ng trust score lahat ng mga tao na nasa GCash. And it's easy if you need, for example, an emergency credit, it's easy for you to activate. So wala ka lang kailangan i-submit na anything. I-activate mo lang. Meron ka na, for example, 5,000 na credit limit. Para in case na kailangan mo siya, andun na siya anytime. You can pay for your goods, ganyan. And we use data as well in order for us to help people to manage their credit. Parang hindi namin binibigay yung credit na mas mapapasama pa sa kanila. Yung tama lang. So imagine the possibilities, no? So parang using alternative data, using math or machine learning and AIs in order for us to create a solution where in a problem na ang daming nababaon sa utang because of this. So because of G-Credit and G-Score, parang may way for people to have access to interest rates that are super low. So they can start with 3% interest rate na prorated. It depends on the number of days that they use it. But it gets better and better as they use it. So unlike traditional ways to do it, na almost impossible na, here, there's a better way. No? So there's an alternative way. And of course, we have to charge interest and fees because as a business, the way it works is there's a risk involved. No? So of course, some people are not gonna pay. So it has to kind of balance it out. Parang ganun siya nag-work, yung lending business. So yeah, parang first few years, it didn't make money kaagad, parang break even or losing money during the first few months. And then eventually, the model worked and it's making a bit money na at this point. No? So that's G-Credit and G-Score, and that's how you can use, for example, machine learning technology in order to create like a solution to a pressing problem. No? So yeah, that's that's really I think I hope that you were able to get the thought process behind it. No? So every time, for example, if you see a problem that's interesting to solve or worth solving for you, then now think about like ano yung mga trends and opportunities that's out there. What kind of solution can I create? Of course, it's deeper than that. Parang di mo siya maisip agad, di ba, na okay, connected na agad. Pero that's how you think about like what design, what technology you can use, what distribution model you can use. And then after that, it's very important to think, how can you make money about so that this startup becomes sustainable. So those are like the four at least major components for you to build, for example, like a good startup and really solve like a problem that's pressing. And just a note here, and na I think quite interesting for startups. And the reason why nagagawa rin yung mga ganito versus, for example, like a traditional company, I think is because of the culture, no? So first, like for me, my personal experience, it's very free and open. So if you go to offices of startups, it's open office, unlike, for example, in traditional companies where it's all in cubicle, di kayo nagkikita-kita. So it's a representation of the culture na is very open for collaboration. There's no hierarchy. So casual wear pa nga. So walang need talaga to dress up. Parang yung normal wear mo, okay na yun. First name basis. So I was very shocked when I joined during my first year kasi it's normal for us to say sir, ma'am, diba? But first thing na yung CEO said, parang call me John. John yung name nung before. Parang it's so awkward. Like you're a 20-year-old person, tas yung CEO, you call first name. But you get used to it. And because of that, parang the culture becomes really more about results over formality. It's all about like collaborating with different kinds of people regardless of what rank they are. So parang it's really understanding that you have different roles and you collaborate with different kinds of people. And the third one's really being agile and being able to execute fast. Because of the culture like this, it's really like very less yung bureaucracy. Of course, there are still processes. But in startups, especially during the early stage, sobrang agile, sobrang bilis gumawa. So it's so fast rin to get feedback from the customer. It's so fast for you to deploy specific products and technology and get feedback agad and then iterate. So if you compare, for example, if you're joining like an FMCG company, meaning fast-moving consumer goods like Unilever, ganyan, parang it will take you years before you create or deploy a product because it's a different nature, diba? So and for example, if you join then banks na traditional, so it will need to be approved pa like how many months. So I guess that's a big part of how great innovations are being done is through culture, no? What kind of culture you have with your team. So, but then I think the problem is, or the reality is, it's not all easy, diba? Parang kanina, mukhang okay, ito yung problem, ito yung solution, ito yung model, how you make money, ganyan. But the reality is, ang daming challenges in startups. Like, personally, for me, I experienced this a lot during my years, no? And I think the first one is really the idea, like the proving the right product market fit. Meaning, yung product mo ba, nasusolve niya ba talaga yung market gap? So yun, parang kailangan mo munang approve siya. Second, team. Do you have the right people? Do you have the right leaders? Do you have the right team to deliver the right execution? No? So especially when you're starting out or you just join a startup company, sometimes it's not sexy yet yung company nyo in such a way that you'll be able to attract the best talents. No? So that's the challenge. And sometimes rin, parang part of it is you hired, but eventually you thought na it's not fit. So parang it's part of your challenges, no? How do you grow the people that you have? Ganyan. Third is the business model, like a clear path to generate revenues. And again, a lot of startups fail in parang proving that they have a clear path to generate revenue, and then they die before they prove that they can, no. Fourth is, funding, having enough funding just in time to have a sustainable model. So this is where like investors come in, or I don't know if you're reliant on your revenues. So it's really that kind of parang your life support when you're still creating this you're build sabi nga nila parang it's like you're flying a plane while you're still building it. So that's kind of how it the best way, one of the best ways to describe how it feels like to be in a startup. Parang you have that deadline parate, because if not, someone else will do it. Someone else is faster than you. So that's a challenge, no? And the fifth one is more of a timing and external factors that will support the introduction of the idea. So when I joined Gcash during the first years, parang it was very early pa lang talaga. And imagine, for the first 4 to 5 years, it was all about building the right foundation. And the real growth came when there came come a pandemic. So it's tough, no? So parang it's really like a balance talaga of that, no? So having the right conviction while you're still waiting, while you're still proving. So it's challenging. And parang it will really parang push you to think critically in terms of proving your idea, your business model, creating the right foundation, so that when you have that right timing and external push, you'll end up being the leader, or you end up being the one that solves the problem now. And so coming from that, um, just a quick sharing, no? Kasi kanina I shared like the simplified version of it. But there's this what you call the lean canvas. It's kind of different versus the traditional business model canvas. Like you can try to search this and look into it deeper. But for me, this is my main resource in creating anything. This is like a business plan in a page. Naka-number siya in terms of what you think about. So kanina, di ba, we said sino yung users. So now you now need to segment sino yung early adopters ko. Parang sino yung, parang in more detail, sino yung mga tao na gusto kong i-serve. And from there, ano yung core problems talaga nila, and ano yung alternatives nila. And after that, knowing na ito yung alternatives, how do you then create like a unique proposition? Ano yung value na gusto mong ibigay sa kanila? And paano mo yun ibibigay? Yun yung solution. Then after that, ano yung channels? Like what are the ways for you to distribute your message and at the same time your product? Diba? Parang how do you reach these people through communications? Do you use influencers? Do you use social media channels? Etc. etc. And then, ito, kanina discuss ko, cost and revenue streams, 5. And then number 6 is metrics. So as a startup organization, right, and even in organization in college, you define what will signify your success. What will be your target, no? It's very important for you to push the team forward. And then last is unfair advantage. So more of what's something unique that you can do na ikaw lang, 'di ba? Parang do you have the right partners? Do you have the right funding? Do you have the right strategic team? Ganyan. So it can be unfair advantage. So I encourage people who want to go deep into it to really go deep into this lean canvas. For me, it saved my life a lot. Parang dito mo makikita like kung ngayon ito yung state ng business ko, ng startup ko, ano yung key risk? Ano yung areas dito na hindi ko na nagawa ng maayos? Tsaka paano ko siya gagawin better? So it becomes your first, parang nagkakaroon ka ng different versions of lean canvas as you go. Okay? And then after that is the scaling, no? So for example, if you create, you know your customers, you know your problem, you have a good product. Now the problem is, how do you reach millions of people? It's not easy, right? Kasi what happens there is, even if you're well funded, I remember before it's super hard to get people to use QR in Gcash. Like we had to pay like 50% cashback so people will try it out first. No, so but then you won't have that a lot of money forever. So we stopped that after a while. No? So I think again going back to our topic, diba? How do we solve social problems through technology and startups? You're able to solve societal problems if you're able to reach as much people as possible, not just one or two. Of course, you can make a difference, but if you want to solve the overall problem, you have to really reach out to a lot of people. And I think one of the interesting frameworks that you can use is the innovation curve or innovation model, where the reality is in anything that's new, you have to define your segments, right? You have to know first who are your, if you can see my mouse, my cursor, you have to know like who are your innovators, who are your early adopters. Itong first two segments muna. Yung first 15% of your of or 16% of your overall target market, right? So senior innovators, senior early adopters, and then really know who they are, and then define how can you reach them in a sustainable way. How can you parang convert them to use your product or your service, diba? So example, like if you're selling this kind of product and then it's related to what an influencer stands for, then maybe you can have like a partnership with that influencer and have like a synergy in order to reach this kind of people. So it's important for any innovation to go through these segments first. Kesa yung parang, gusto ko lahat ng Pilipino gagamitin to. Tapos punta ka na dito agad sa early majority, gusto mo 1 million agad yung gagamit or 10 million agad yung gagamit. It won't come that easy. Usually, it goes with a specific group of people first, a smaller group, and then that's how you create ripples or networks so that eventually you can really scale and then reach that massive adoption. No? So if you can see, like, for example, Spotify, Food Panda, Facebook, it all started with small muna, and then they utilize networks and social networks in order for them to really penetrate the early majority, and it becomes everyone na majority of people using it. So yeah, so I think in a nutshell, that's the view or what happens or how do you think about solving specific problems through startups, right? So from knowing your problem to knowing your customers to understanding what kind of product you want to create and then iterating it to the point na yun na talaga yung gusto mong scale, and now to reaching people, reaching different all of your target customers through this kind of approach, no? So yeah, that's that's kind of that's actually the full thought process. And after that, if you can think about it, now you have that framework, diba? The reality is, ang dami pang problems that you can solve. Like, there's a lot of opportunities talaga for you to use startups or for you to use innovation technology to solve problems, right? From health to climate change to, ito, very relevant, history revision, injustice, hunger, lack of jobs, education, etc. So, a lot of problems out there that you can try to really tackle. It's really just a matter of knowing the step by step and going deeper into it as you go along, diba? So yeah, I see some of you in the tech startup scene sometime after you graduate, and yeah, I hope I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, ma'am, for that very fruitful discussion. And really, it made the concept of startups more clear to us. That startup isn't just like you're going to think of something and already there's going to be everything nice and everything good and everything trending. It's really a meticulous process that we have to think, and that we really need to think things through, and that as with the title of this webinar, it's also about having the proper thought process that we would start with what really is the problem that we would want to solve and how this problem or whether or not this problem will be present to the majority of the people, going over to what is our compelling solution, going to what is the business model that we're going to implement or what would be the proper business model, and also considering the different trends and opportunities. But also, I think we also go back to the ignition, through our ignition education, that whatever that our startups could really solve social problems that we could cater into the betterment of our society, and including with this is the sustainability of our solution and the sustainability of our startups at the end of the day. So indeed, surely our participants would have elevated their ideas, their startup ideas to the next level. But I'm sure that many of our participants have their inquiries, their questions. But before we begin with our open forum, we will proceed again with another exciting part where you will apply the things that you have learned today. Our organizers have actually collected some iconic startups that most, if not all, have been today. And you, our dear participants, will be guessing some of the names of these startups. So this is to see whether you're really into this amazing opportunity. So it's quite simple, right? So without further ado, let's proceed to our game mechanics. So the mechanics of our mini game is that first, our organizer or our tech team will be flashing some emojis on the screen, and you, our dear participants, must guess what social media startup is being presented through commenting your answers in the chat box. However, only the first participant who was able to answer correctly after my go signal, together with the go signal from our staff, will be considered as the winner. And the winner of this game will receive a Gcash prize. And the winner shall message Miss Niña on Facebook Messenger to claim their prize. So very simple lang ang game natin, guys. So if you're ready, pa-comment naman dyan sa chat box natin or maybe have some reactions through our Zoom reaction platform. So ready na ba kayo sa game natin? Okay, ready na daw. Okay, so sino kayong mananalo? So, tech team, next slide please. Okay, so for our first and final round, we have... Okay, so we have two emojis here. So ano kaya ito? Kaya. Remember, please wait for my go signal and the go signal of our staff so that your answers will be considered correct. Okay, so 3, 2, 1, go! Pinumawala yung ating go signal. Okay, try lang yun. Hintayin natin kasama yung go signal line. Again, 3, 2, 1, go! Ayan, okay. So, sino ba ang keyboard warrior natin ngayon? Wait lang, napakaraming ng responses. Ayan. Okay, so I believe we now have our winner for this game. And before I reveal the winner, let's first reveal the correct answer. Okay, so the correct answer is Facebook. And our winner for this game is Angelo Melesio Agawa. So congratulations, Angelo Melesio Agawa. Please don't forget to message Niña through Facebook Messenger with your Gcash details to claim your prize. Ayan, so that's it for our short game. And let us now proceed with our open forum. But while our participants are still constructing their questions, let's first have our set of reactors to give some insights regarding Miss Team's talk. So our first reactor is Jasmine Baguio. Miss Baguio, are you here?
Good morning, everyone. I'm gonna start by commending the speaker kasi to be honest, parang yung mga initial questions ko in mind was actually answered na already. Starting off with what are the challenges by ng mga startups, 'di ba? Kasi when we're starting a business, ang initial talaga nating magiging problem is ano ba talaga yung challenges na we can come across. Pero if I would have a question for it, it's if ever, do you have, Ma'am Kim, do you have any tips for startups to get consumers po? Aside po doon sa, what do you call this? Like incentives, for example, like cashback or something like that. Aside from that, is there another alternative for that? Because not everyone naman po, di ba, has the luxury to give those things naman. Moreover, I commend din po, like, thank you po for the tip with regards to the lean canvas. That actually is like, for me, one of the building block for us to monitor the business, like what are the weaknesses, what can we improve on. So thank you for that. And thank you also, lastly, for the tip that we should maximize the networks that we have in order to get the early majorities. So yeah, going back with my question po, do you have any tips for startups po to get consumers? Thank you.
Thanks, Justine, for your reactions. No? Very, very deep and insightful. I think there are a lot of different ways to creatively tap different customers. And for example, if you're not a corporation, di ba? Parang for example, di ka yung conglomerate na ang dami mong pera or something. Ang dami mong networks that you can actually use, right? Like starting off, for example, with Facebook groups, right? So for example, if gusto mong mag-tap ng online sellers, halimbawa meron kang naisip na interesting idea for online sellers, example, parang tool na gagamitin nila to track their whatever yung inventory nila or your sales nila, etc. And example, may mga services ka for them na for digital marketing, ganyan. So you can go there and, for example, try to be really active there, or you can also market yourself or your startup na, oh, this is a startup na different versus the others, ganyan. Ito yung reason bakit okay mag-trust sa akin, this is what I can give to you, etc. So you can, for example, market yourself as a person or a professional that can help them out. And then, because of that, you can gain followers. For example, parang magkaka-follower ka. So, yung galing sa groups, pupunta na siya sa'yo sa page mo. Or kaya, tas gawa ka ng TikTok or ng YouTube. So that you can even create more content for them. Right? So then it becomes not less of a push selling, but then because you're creating content, you're creating value, you can pull people na habang nanonood sila ng content, yun parang mas na naturally, di ba, parang nagbe-build yung trust natin with influencers as we see them, as we consume their content. So a lot of things that you can utilize actually, right? And it really starts with, understanding yung customers. Kasi kahit tayo, ayaw natin pinupush sell lang, di ba? Parang usually maganda na may relationship ka muna, etc. So there's a lot, because of the technology now, social media, TikTok, ang daming ways for you to actually create that relationship with your customers. Diba? So there.
Thank you very much, ma'am. And thank you very much, Miss Baguio, for that reaction. Unfortunately, our second reactor has encountered internet difficulties. Hence, we will immediately proceed to our open forum with our participants. So, for our dear participants, if you have any questions or insights, you may send them through the Zoom chat box, or you may also raise your hand, or you may also answer our Google form. For the meantime, let's proceed with the questions that we have accumulated earlier. So, Miss Kim, are you ready na po ba?
Sure, game.
Okay po, game na talaga si ma'am. So, for our first question, this is from an IT student po. I am not knowledgeable in fintechs, But Miss Kim, when you transitioned into tech, did you feel the need to learn programming languages, or were you focused on the managerial aspects of being in tech?
Right. So, yung role ko sa GCash and tech in general is more on the business side. So, parang what I needed to learn lang. I didn't really need to program or code. So, I don't know how to code or whatever. Oh, but I want to learn eventually kahit basic. But yung need ko lang matutunan is how to work with tech team, right? So, kasi if you have an idea or a solution, you have to work with the tech team. So more of understanding how things are structured and how to create yung specific requirements. Kasi tech, di ba, parang the role of the tech people is to, for example, create yung code na ito yung mangyayari if ganito, ito yung mangyayari if ganito. Parang ang daming scenarios na need mo i-consider. Kasi that's how you ensure that you have a good experience in the app. Right? So as a product owner, what I need to learn is how to think through all the different scenarios and what to do in those different scenarios. Parang that's as a product or a business person, that's more of your role na this is what you do, etc. And at the same time, I guess yung understanding the basics of tech na ganito yung process niya na you assess the solution, and then after a while, ibibigay sa code, sa dev, and then after a while, may QA. So mga ganun stuff, may code review. So parang just the basics of technology and the process so that you also know how to deal with the tech team. Kasi you can't just push and push. You have to understand that this is the process, right? So yeah, that's really the in a nutshell, that's how I navigated. You don't really need to know everything naman. Parang you have your own roles.
Thank you so much for that, ma'am. Before we proceed to the next question, we actually have in the chat box one of the people who are pursuing to have a startup. We have Raymond, one of the co-founders of Jesuit. So they are a startup that connects customers who are in need of services to providers with reliable services who need more opportunities. So they're currently encountering a kind of a block as they have seemed to observe that there is a very little support system for startups here in Naga, and they're actually part of the one of the incubator startups under B called TBI, which is a technology business incubator based here in Naga. So this is a little call for our participants here who want to join a startup or maybe want to be part of this cause. So if you're interested, you may message Kuya Raymond through the different channels that you could see in the chat in the Zoom chat box. So with that, let's proceed to our next question po. For the next question, this is from an accountancy student. Thank you for inspiring us to explore the world of startups and how they can be used for good. From your personal experience po, what is the biggest challenge that the startup you belong to, specifically in GCash, have encountered in order to make it sustainable? And how were you or your team able to overcome it? And they also have a follow-up question. As per your experiences po, what advice or advices can you share to students in order for us to succeed in building or joining startups?
Sure. Nice. Those are good questions. So first, biggest challenge na naalala ko is madami actually. Pero yung top of mind, I think overall as GCash is when during the times when pre-pandemic, we were parang behind what our goals, right? So yung goals namin is this, tas parang ganito lang yung reach namin. So parang at some point, this is how fast we wanted things to be, but it's not necessarily going that way. And at some point, parang you think na, is there something wrong with what we're doing, etc.? Is this going towards a failure? And imagine during that time, we're not necessarily making money yet. Parang usual tech stories, first few years, losing money lang talaga siya. And the luxury is we're back, di ba? Parang we're well capitalized, unlike majority of the startups. So imagine if mas ganun pa. So parang yung ipit talaga in terms of where you need to be. At least ito on the shareholder level, parang yung pressure ng investors. But then I think the way the management and us really handled it is to focus on building what's needed to be built. Parang yung conviction on these are the things that we have to build, etc. And yeah, that's why yung kanina na pinakita ko Gcash Forest, the Indian person, that's our CEO that time. And that's actually, he's the one of the persons I learned a lot from. Yun siya yung sinasabi ko kaninang from Citibank, ganyan. So parang he really led that conviction. We just have to build this cash and channels muna na we have to ensure that we all have the pipeline na connecting to the banks, connecting to this pawn shops, ganyan. So parang yung pipeline and yung pipes that connects everything so that it becomes like a product that works. Plus investing in the right innovation ahead of the competition, like yung mga nililid ko that time na G-Save, ganyan, G-Credit, etc. Parang those are the things that doesn't bear fruit agad in the short term, but it's very crucial when things happen. When the pandemic hit, that's the reason why people use Gcash over PayMaya, because it becomes like a mas buong product during that time, right? So yeah, I think overall it becomes that story, like that pressure to deliver short term versus what you have, ganyan. In most startups, yung crunch na, ito na lang yung life ko, parang yung pera sa kaban 12 months na lang, pero andito pa tayo. So those kind of things. So it will push you to innovate, to think of ways to really ensure that you will still be alive during this point of time. I think yun yung greatest challenge. Sorry, I forgot the second question. What was it again?
The second question po is, what advice or advices can you give to students who are planning to start or join a startup?
Right. I think yung first and foremost is, I guess, don't let yung courses, for example, kasi ako yun yung hugot ko during my student years. Yung courses mo doesn't really define your track. A lot of the people I know, parang wala hindi talaga siya limit. Kung halimbawa you feel na about you're an engineering graduate, you want to be a business person, nothing's stopping you from doing that. Parang sometimes when we're younger, dati ako rin, parang you have this kind of parang limitations in your head. That's not necessarily true. So for me, that's the first part. Like parang know or understand like what you really want or your passion, and don't think of the limits. Parang when you go out of college, talaga siya, parang open canvas. Sometimes it's overwhelming kasi unlike in school, define na anong gagawin mo today, ganyan. Ito, parang yung choices sobrang open kahit ano. So, but then it's also an opportunity. Like it's also like an opportunity for you to explore and be yourself. Like be the person that you want to be, right? So that's one. And second is, for me, it's parang once you find something that you're quite interested about, I feel like there's a lot of content out there. There's a lot of parang books out there, etc. For me personally, kaya ako napunta sa sa marketing ganyan. Kasi nag-interested ako, parang may na-attendan akong talk before ng Mark Prof. Tapos parang there was this CEO from Johnson & Johnson, and I was so inspired in creating like a product that will scale. So parang yun, ever since I wanted marketing. And because of that, parang I was reading a lot of books. So I'm in my room now na in my, as in dito sa bahay namin. Kasi I'm in Manila na at minsan eh. Pero like, yung mga books ko na binabasa, mga ganito, mga Steve Jobs, ganyan, during that time. So, a lot of resources that's available out there, and nothing stopping you from exploring, especially now, right, that you have YouTube, etc. So when I was just starting out in startups, I really did a lot of work ahead of my peers. Parang kasi probinsya na ako nun, tapos lahat Ateneo de Manila, whatever, UP, ganyan. So parang at some point, I felt intimidated. So parang what I did was really to double time and learn as much as I can. Diba? So parang I listened to the executives, ganyan. I listened to all the mga pwedeng i-idol din sa company. Tapos parang I understood like how they think, and I couple that with learning a lot. Like I read a lot of books. Now madami ng videos na magaganda sa YouTube, ganyan. So I think my message is parang there's a lot of things that you can learn even after you graduate, or even if you're doing it right now. A lot of things that's out there that you can really understand how it works, and parang that will help you find the things that you will be interested in working on for a long time. So yun, parang never stop learning talaga.
Thank you so much for that, ma'am. So to our aspiring startups here in our meeting, alam niyo na. So it's also about pushing through and never stop learning more than an outside from sa program natin, but also on the things that we're passionate about and our startup that we're looking forward to join or just, of course, to start. And it seems like, ma'am, meron na dito mga nagbabalak na mag-start and magpatuloy ng startup, because we have another question and they're asking po. So, startups seem to be a very attractive career prospect. But can you share daw po how sustainable the career could be? Since there are people who tend to avoid startups because they are unstable or there are a lot of uncertainties which may cost their career.
Right. I think it depends on your state, diba? Parang, for example, if you're sustainable, just to clarify, the sustainability in terms of, for example, economical, yun ba?
It's not indicated po, but it could differ po to how in terms of economy and how having a startup could ultimately continue the livelihood of a person after they graduate.
Gets. So I think really depends on your state rin and your pressure, right? But I think it varies. No? So there are startups that are a bit less risky, because I understand, of course, for some breadwinners, diba, parang can take parang less risk than some. But the reality is, at least ngayon, parang mas madami na yung startups na mas stable. Yung tech startups na mas stable. Nung nag-start pa lang ako dati, wala. Parang halos di siya sexy, yung startup. parang yung sexy dati, yung mga Unilever, mga traditional companies. But now, yung kagandahan is, madaming startups na backed by big companies. So you can start with that if that's something that you are interested in. Like Gcash, hindi na siya mamamatay anytime. But honestly, for me, before, nung mas risky siya, minsan kasi, trade-off. Kasi sometimes, pag mas risky, mas madami ka rin matututunan. Kasi when it's bigger and more stable, parang mas specialized na yung roles, right? So, mas mahirap na siya. So parang for me, honestly, I took a bit more risk when it was starting out. Although, mas onte ng risk because it was a conglo. So parang hindi ka masyadong kinakabahan na maaalis siya anytime. But yeah, so parang it's a matter of looking for that kinds of opportunities talaga if you have, for example, a financial pressure, especially in tech startups now. Ayun, parang again, it's a kind of a relatively mature industry. You would be surprised at how it's quite parang it's quite okay yung compensations. Parang I feel like the startup or the tech industry in general is super high demand. That, for example, in pandemic, hindi nauubusan ng demand for it. Right? So, mag-business ka man, especially tech, I think tech, that's one of the highest, parang pinakamahal na talents namin. For example, data scientist, yung data scientist, wala namang course na required for it. Pero I think yung foundation nun is math. So those people creating those models, etc. Parang mga algorithms, logarithmic, blah, blah. So I think that yun isa sa mga super high demand and high value. UX designers, designers na product people. So ang daming roles na possible. And I think it's a quite attractive opportunity because it's in demand. There's a lot of momentum behind it. Investors are investing a lot in startups because that's where the growth is. So yeah, it's I feel like at this point it's not super risky. But for example, if you join halimbawa the riskier startups and you're one of the pioneering employees, you get paid off with the risk. So if part ka nun, tas mapasucceed nyo siya, you get equity. So you get a portion of that company and the multiplier is a lot more. Diba? Kasi from zero, kaya mong mag-times 100 times 1,000. So for example, if you own shares worth 1 million for that, pag times 10 siya, 10 million na siya. So life-changing na siya for you. So parang everything talaga is risk-reward. Parang if you take more risk, sometimes there's higher reward. But it doesn't mean that the middle risk is not attractive enough. Right? For me, personally, it was a mid-risk that I took when I was starting out. And now that I built my personal savings coming from the bonuses, the increases, etc., then I'm willing to take on more risk. So yun.
All right, thank you so much for that, ma'am. We're down to our last two questions po, and it's diving more onto the technicalities of startups na talaga. We have a question here po. How do we attract or find co-founders po, especially when we're just starting the startup itself? Especially since it was also one of the challenges highlighted earlier, which is to finding the team or the people to work with.
Right. Yeah, that's actually the hard part because sometimes magic din siya, diba? So for me, it's really just exposing yourself to a lot of networking events or possibilities, diba? Like, mga katabi mo sa school, kausapin mo, baka meron dyan. Parang get to know as much people as possible. Join organizations. And within Naga, and for example, beyond Naga, right? Like, for me, being able to work in Manila, like, expanded my thinking and my network so much. Parang yung thinking mo, like, expand as you expand your network, like, right? Parang for me, for example, I worked with someone who graduated in Stanford with double degree, masters, ganyan. Tapos, work in Wall Street. So imagine the kinds of people that you can meet and what are the things that we can learn from them. So I feel like as you build relationships over time, you can actually, parang dun yun yung pull mo in terms of finding co-founders. Right? So yun. I think yun, parang getting to know as much people talaga as possible.
And so to our aspiring startup founders, kaya nyo po yan. Build networks, ask around, and makakahanap rin ng team to really push through with your endeavor. And for our last question po, what are the things to avoid in joining or starting startups? Like, what are the red flags naman, kumbaga po, when it comes to this endeavor?
Right, red flags. I think because I've experienced some rin I've encountered. I think yung first talaga is parang get to know the founder. And understand yung motivations behind it, diba? So that's one, right? Like, tingnan mo if sincere talaga, tapos if aligned kayo, right? And if okay yung personalities nyo together, if okay kayo mag-work with, ganyan. Second is, of course, yung legitimacy of what yung ginagawa. Kasi for some founders, for example, parang failure na talaga yung ginagawa nila. They're just trying to hire people. Tapos yung pala, front lang yung mga PR. Parang may mga ganun na PR siya, pero wala talagang wala naman talagang user base in reality. Tapos in exchange yung deal mo with them is not necessarily parang employee based, parang hindi siya yung partner. So parang understand like yung existing yung ano talaga parang yung existing business kung ano talaga yung state. Dapat of course transparent. Okay lang naman kahit for example if it's ganun talaga yung state. Ang reality is, ang important is maging transparent and halata na sincere plus clear lahat, di ba? Parang yung honesty talaga yung pinaka-important in the first place. Kasi okay lang naman kahit sabog-sabog pa, normal lang naman talaga yun. As long as okay, I need your help to do this and that and ito yung deal natin. Parang ganun. So it has to be honest and fair and transparent.
Thank you so much for that, ma'am. So really, this is a big endeavor then to pursue. We have to take into consideration our motivation, our foundation, and also the risks in partaking into startups. And that concludes our open forum. But let me recognize our aspiring startups or the co-founders of different startups in our Zoom chat box. We have Kuya Joshua, the co-founder of Higayon, and they are a clean tech startup in the ideation and validation phase under the Idea to Startup program of LG Unaga. And they're also undergoing bootcamp under the QBO Philippines in partnership with the U.S. Embassy's American Spaces Philippines. And they're also looking for a co-founder, specifically a tech co-founder with knowledge of phone and web app development. So if you're interested, you may contact them through their contact details in the Zoom chat box. And the same goes with Kuya Raymond. Ma'am, do you have anything to say po? Any last words or closing remarks?
Parang I left my email here. And feel free to add me on Facebook. Message me na lang if di ko i-accept. Pero feel free to reach out to me rin. I'm very happy to help out in any way I can. To connect you to the right people, investors, etc. Like I know quite few interesting mga networks, people who are willing to invest, ganun. Etc. So anything like questions or any way that I can help, like feel free to reach out rin. And all the best.
All right. Thank you very much, ma'am. And to our aspiring startups and to those who are thinking to enter into this field, good luck and all the best. So before we officially end our program, we would like to express our sincerest gratitude to our resource speaker for joining us today through the Certificate of Appreciation. So the certificate reads, the Office of Student Affairs at ADNU University presents the Certificate of Appreciation to Miss Kim Aimei Seng in grateful recognition of her expertise and service as a resource speaker in the alternative class program Tech Startups Solving Social Problems, held on May 17, 2022. Given this, the 17th day of May 2022 at the Ateneo de Naga University, City of Naga, Philippines. Signed by Mr. Rodolfo F. B. Vertus Jr., the Director of Student Affairs. Ms. Janet B. Badong Badilla, the Executive Director for Mission and Identity. Dr. Alfredo C. Fabay, the Vice President for Higher Education. And Father Roberto E. N. Rivera of the Society of Jesus, the University President. So once again, we thank our resource speaker for this very fruitful and inspiring webinar session today. So with that, may we request everyone to please turn on your cameras for a quick picture taking. So our technical operator will be facilitating the picture taking.
Okay, so hintayin lang po natin yung ibang magbukas. Sa akin po kasi 4 slides to. So, para sa mga nag-open, kindly just smile lang po for few more minutes or seconds. Okay. I think po we can start na. Alright. Okay po. Ready? 1, 2, 3, smile. Right, second slide. 1, 2, 3. Next slide. 1, 2, 3. Last slide. 1, 2, 3. Balik lang ako sa first slide kasi may mga nag-open habang ako nag-scan ng other side. 1, 2, 3. Okay po, thank you very much po.
Thank you very much to our tech team for facilitating our photo op session. So thank you so much again, everyone, for being part of this event, which would not be made possible without you. Congratulations to the winner of today's game. And I hope and I can really see that our participants are very invested with our webinar session today. To the participants of this ATP webinar, please do not forget to accomplish the evaluation form to receive your certificate. So you would see in our screen the QR code for our evaluation form, and our staff will also be and is sending the evaluation form link in our chat box. So please make sure that you accomplish the evaluation form and also write the correct information. Again, we are grateful for your participation and we hope to see you in our future ATP webinars or workshops. Again, this has been Precious Niña by Apuya, and this ends today's workshop, Tech Startups, Solving Social Problems. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank
Maraming
you.
salamat.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everyone.